Hello, everybody, and welcome to Join George. And today I am joined by the lovely MARI-CARMEN Sanchez-Morris. And good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So I'm sorry about that messy start there, but we will now kick off properly. So, Mary, you are the founder of MARI-CARMEN?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you are women's healthcare specialist. You trained as a nurse and worked for a nurse as a long time. How many years did you do as a nurse?
7 years.
7 years.
On PICU at the Birmingham Children's.
Okay, and also a mother of 3.
Yes, crazy.
Yes, and a founder and working full-time, self-employed and doing all of that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Crazy, some would say.
Yeah, it's a little bit busy, yeah. Now, I've invited you here today to talk about a couple of things, really. One, your app. Are we calling it an app? Is that
Platform.
Right? Platform. Thank you, MARI-CARMEN, which we'll talk about in a moment. But also to share your experience, your wealth of experience in women's healthcare, how to support mothers, how mothers can help themselves, but actually how businesses can support those mothers. And that's what MARI-CARMEN is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Helping those mums coming back into work and helping the businesses support those mothers in that transition. And keep them.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we'll come to talk about that. So I think my first question for you is, how was MARI-CARMEN how did it even come about?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like my life's work. I feel like the Joan of Arc for maternal health because it's something I feel so passionate about. So obviously you said I've got 3 children. Yeah. I actually qualified as a paediatric nurse and took my first job in intensive care at Birmingham Children's when I was only 21, and I worked there for 7 years and witnessed, I guess, firsthand the lack of support for mothers when they have their baby. I remember one child, unfortunately, was born. I needed to come straight to us, so only like a few hours old, and the mum was still in the maternity hospital at the other side of Birmingham. And then the next day, she appeared by the bedside, and this is before I had children, and I just thought, she was by the bedside of a very poorly child, and needed extra support as well. I couldn't ignore that, but and then obviously I then had my first child, who's now 8.
Right.
And I was still nursing, but it was through my own personal journey of not finding the right support for myself with my health and well-being after I had him was when that journey started.
Okay.
So I have got 2 companies, and my first company was all around health, fitness for mums, supporting mums get their confidence back postnatally. And I still do have that company. I've got people now that work for me on that side of the business.
And if I can just pause there and say that came about, that fitness element came about from, again, your own personal experience of having your firstborn.
Yeah.
I have 2 children, again, so, for me, you want to get back into shape, you do. There is that element, but there is also a real draw to staying fit and healthy. Because, again, as a mum, you've got to keep that baby alive. So, the importance of you staying fit and healthy is paramount.
Yeah.
And a lot of mums, and I've been guilty of, we prioritise looking after the baby and we forget to look after ourselves.
Yeah.
So in those early days, I think, early
definitely.
months, definitely.
Yeah, and it's about, making it achievable. It's not just about, all the fitness, it's the whole package, right? So so I still have that company. And then when COVID hit, I had all of us, I panicked and I had to take my business online, and that's when I really noticed a gap in the market for maternal health platforms for mothers that have everything in one place that's evidence-backed with all the experts.
Wow.
So we launched a fitness app to start with, but noticed a real gap in the market for integrating it into health and to supporting businesses as well with returning back to work, which is why we then pivoted, and that's where MARI-CARMEN was born. So it's all those learnings of my own, but also talking to so many mums.
Yeah.
That's almost given me that, proven that there's a huge market opportunity and there's a need for it.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, of course, what I love that you're doing is you're also talking to the businesses.
Yeah.
So again, like you say, I talk to mums all the time because I'm a mum, and that's, you and I could have a chat about the kids all day long, and about what it's like to work. But then what do we do with that? What do we do with that chat?
Exactly.
We perhaps just feel comforted by it for an hour, or, I might go and think, I'll go and do a bit more exercise a while.
Yeah.
I'll eat a bit better or whatever. But actually, what do I do when I come to, because I love working. So this
is such a massive part of your life, right? I mean, you spend so many hours at work.
So then the fact that you're talking to those businesses, that is absolutely critical. And so I want to look at that in a moment, if I may. Yeah. So we talked earlier on, before we went live, about how this would play out. And I said, right, okay, if we went on the journey of a new mum, could be a parent, of course, because again, dads need all of this support the same way. But again, you pee on that stick. That was your line, wasn't it?
Yeah. The market entry point. Yes, as soon as you pee on that stick.
Exactly. Yeah. Market entry. You pee on that stick, whether it's positive or negative, actually.
Exactly.
It starts then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. You've peed on that stick. Say you've done it in the morning at 8 o'clock. You're at your desk for 9.
Yeah.
Everything changes. Everything starts to change. And we talked about how actually, and I think you've got evidence of this, of speaking to the mothers, how they can feel quite scared to tell their employer that they're pregnant.
Yeah.
Because how are they going to be perceived at work? Are companies, what do companies view? What is their view of working mums or pregnant women, et cetera, et cetera. So that's it. That's when Matrisa starts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? So at that point, you tell your employer you're pregnant. And if you've got Matrisa, as part of your package at work, then great, you start to access.
Yeah, as soon as you tell your employer, you would gain access to the platform.
And then what would you gain straight away? If I'm pregnant, I've told my boss I'm pregnant, they go, here you go, have a look at this.
Well, it's a personalised preventative programme designed for the mother. Okay. So it's... Obviously, we commercialise it through companies, but it's designed for the mother, which is so important. So every programme would be different depending on what the mother needs, and the platform moves in real time with them. So throughout that whole pregnancy, in that first, second trimester, third trimester, it will ask the mother every day how they're feeling, and a few questions, so like a symptom check-in, and then the platform then will change and manipulate to ensure that mother is given that support they need at the right time.
Right.
And then we will add in AI into it to start doing early detection, because a lot of the time, and you might remember this, if you were given the information that you needed before the problem arose, you would not end going down. You might not go down a certain trajectory. Yeah. And I think that's the key here, because unfortunately the health system in the UK is not what it used to be. And mums are not getting the support that they need from their health, from the NHS in pregnancy.
Okay.
So it's giving them all that information that's specific to them.
Okay.
So they can be present and healthy at work.
And that then could be discussed with their employer as often or as little as often or as whatever as they like.
Yeah. If they want, obviously all the information that we take is the mother's. We would never share it with an employer. But if they want to, share it with their employer, then they absolutely can.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So it's very, like you say, it's very much for the mother to assist them at that early stage. Then, when does the employer perhaps become a little bit more involved? Is that when we've done our 12 months off? We've been fortunate enough to take 12 months off work.
Yeah.
Enjoyed, being a new parent, all the rest of it, and then at a certain point we go, oh, we've got to go back to work. You could be delighted, you could be frightened, there's a whole mix of emotions that that comes into that. Mm. So at this point, again, you're doing your check-ins on the app, on the platform, and then. When does the employer start to have a bit more input?
So when the mother goes on maternity leave, I think that's a huge risk, I think, for the employer and the employee. Because a lot of the time, employers don't want to make contact with their employees. Yeah. Certainly in that first 6 months. If they are taking a year off, because some mothers go back earlier, and that's fine. But then at the same time, that when I was on maternity leave with my first, that's when I then started to train and build my other business whilst I was on maternity leave.
Because you thought, and actually, how am I going to do my job?
Yeah, and if you look at the stats, a lot of mums then do look at what way, because it comes back to flexible work, and how can I still make money but be present for my child? And that's when their mother is then more likely to look over the fence and see, well, actually, I could do that over there.
Okay.
So that 12 months, I think, is really risky for the employer and the employee.
Right.
So from the mother's point of view, we
Yeah.
make sure that they are given that support postnatally,
Yeah.
which is needed even more, because I think
Okay.
postnatal provisions are even worse than antenatal ones. But then within the platform, there'll be a toggle whereby the mother can opt in for updates from their employer if they want to.
okay.
So we're that bridge between employer and employee whilst they're on maternity leave.
Got it.
And then most companies will offer their employee 7 to 9 kit days, keeping in touch days.
Yeah.
And at that point, then we would come on board to support that employer bringing their mother back to work. So there is a programme within the platform called the Juggle and Thrive programme that the mother can access at any point during their pregnancy, postpartum period. But we wrap that up with clinics. So we have a bunch of experts ranging from business psychologists, women health experts, fertility, baby loss. And then on those kit days, the mother can book an hour with one of these experts, depending on what they need.
Okay.
And then help that transition back to work.
Back to work.
But it's not just when I think the critical point is within those first 2 years when they come back to work. You know, like when you first come back, you know, it takes a bit of like, or you might not be back up to your full capacity. Yeah. You know, it's then once you're back in it, your children are now settled in at nursery, life's gone back to normal. That's when that's the real risk, to some degree.
And again, as a mother, I know that that first 2 years, you know, well, again, they're probably the hardest.
Yeah. And that's when most companies lose their talent.
Yeah.
Is that retention piece.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference with our solution and other corporate benefit platforms is that it's that retention piece.
Yeah.
But also, it's so important that no size fits all.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the personalised preventative technology comes on board to make sure that mother, just because that mother can cope with doing that, it doesn't mean that mother might not be able to, because she might not have the system around her to be able to help her.
You and I will come to talk about this in a moment as well, around how to juggle and ways to support, ways to help yourselves as a mum, not just for employers. This webinar is for everybody. But both my children I had in Leamington without any family support. You know, you mentioned to me that you've got, mother-in-law and a mum that helps you out one day a week. Fantastic. And I know loads of mums with families with that sort of support. But again, it's very, very different.
I don't think that's the case now. I think most mums are raising their children away from family. Yeah,
because we move.
Yeah,
for
you
various
move for career,
reasons.
and then they haven't got family nearby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's challenging. We are going to talk about that a little bit more, but I wanted to talk about the pilot.
Yes.
Because this is brilliant, because again, you're talking about that retention piece, and like I say, this isn't, of course, it's mother centric, but you're really having to lean into those employers and support them in supporting those mums. So you've run a pilot.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we ran a pilot with one of the big four.
Okay.
Can't say who, but it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And we did it for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So we piloted the Juggle and Thrive programme that's in the platform.
Okay.
So we had a cohort of mothers in various stages of their motherhood journey. So some were on maternity leave, some were pregnant, some were just coming back to work, and some were actually back at work.
Okay.
Still with I think most of the children were under the age of 3. And during that 8-week period, they did the programme within the platform, but we also offered wellness clinics alongside it with myself.
Yeah.
And that was great because we got some really good insights from the mother and their experience. And actually, this company do very well at flexible working policies, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
But there were some real common themes in that pilot. And over the course of the 8 weeks, we increased their wellbeing score from 5.2 to 7.8, and their productivity increased by 20%, which we're extremely
that's great.
proud of.
20% is fantastic.
And the feedback was great.
Yeah.
So, but when we was talking, so we spoke to each of the mothers independently within the clinic, and actually one of the common themes was around, you touched on it earlier, was having the confidence to ask for support from the employer. You know, one of the ladies shared that she was back at work. A director of the company had her, I think it was her first child, but had been back to work a good 6 months and was finding it all a bit hard, like we all do.
Yeah.
And she had a conversation with one of the senior partners in the canteen, very casual. And the senior partner shared to her, well, I remember that well. she had 3 children, and she just shared with that mother what you're experiencing is completely normal. And I think that's the key. And unfortunately, if you haven't got a leader that understands what a mother is going through, a parent is going through, I think it makes it a lot harder. So, you know, one of the things that we also support is actually supporting those leaders, because not all of them are parents, and that's fine.
No.
But, and, you know, they're doing the best that they can in that situation. So it's also about coaching the leaders in the team how to support, you know, this group of women parents properly.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Because it was just that simple conversation that made a world of good.
And so that's a great story. The pilot, again, you said there's some really great feedback from, again, there's some real stats there about how successful it was. What did the business have to say about it? Did they?
Yes. So what they liked is they obviously all the feedback we had from the wellness clinic was all confidential. Okay. So none of no names were shared. Yeah. But I did have a meeting with the leaders afterwards to discuss the pilot, and what they really liked is having that feedback, you know, because I was able to share the common themes, so that gave them then business insight into areas that they potentially need to improve on. But also the fact that it was a trusted platform, separate. Because I think a lot of the time...
So their internal HR policies,
they didn't
procedures
want, they
and
didn't want all of that. And actually what was really interesting is we, one of my technical partners in the team developed a employer dashboard. And at one point we thought about collecting anonymised aggregated data from these people in the pilot, from the platform, to then be able to share with the employer, obviously no names, but almost put it into a traffic light system. And I shared that with them, and it was no.
No, it isn't a traffic light system, is it?
Because actually it's what they liked is the fact that it was separate.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that it was almost like we trust you to take care of them, and this feedback that you're sharing is great. Yeah. You know, and And
I do sympathise that with large corporations, you know, there does seem to be one size has to fit all sometimes. Yeah. You know, and I kind of understand that they can fall into that. Yeah. But that's what you're saying. This platform would never do that. Yeah.
And it's preventative.
It gives the business the opportunity to feel like it's not part of their normal HR, like you say, set in stone policies and procedures.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's you know, a lot of the benefits you get are you can go and see a psychologist. But then that might be because you've got a mother off work. Whereas actually, if you gave them a bit more support before that happened, you know, with preventative care, then that might not end up like that. So obviously, you know, there is a business need there as well. Yeah. It's not a cost, it's an investment. You know, and like
to keep them.
Talking about the numbers, you know, like for example, in this company, to replace, you know, one of these senior leaders, you're talking like £100,000 plus, you know, 25% of their salary, you know.
So this brings me back to talking about what it's even like to be a working parent nowadays. You know, again, before we went live, you and I were talking about our own upbringings. You know, we're again fortunate to have mum and dad at home, dad working full time, mum working part time. You know, great. And actually, my story is that I thought I would love to do that because that's what I was shown. Actually, when I came to be a mother, I thought, oh, this is wonderful, you know. But actually, so many people are working. I've got no family close by. My husband's at work every day. And again, this is 14 years ago when my son was born. You know, there wasn't as much flexible working. He didn't work from home. He was out all day and often overnight. Yeah. I was quite isolated. Yeah. And actually having a job was really critical to my mental health, emotional, physical. My whole well-being actually really needed a job. Yeah. And so I went to work part-time. But even then I knew I wanted to do more. So, you know, I was fortunate that financially I didn't need to work full-time. Yeah. But I could tell I wanted to. Yeah. And actually, you know, so many women have to work. Parents have to work full-time because we've talked about the rising cost in childcare, the rising cost in house prices, the cost of living. You know, I mean, I hear younger couples say to me, well, we can't afford to have children.
Wow, and that fertility rates they are dropping. And that's a huge, societal issue that we should be looking at.
It is. It's huge. So, again, we've, so much to talk about. But we talked about, again, it takes a village, that famous saying about raising a family, it takes a village. And like I say, I've never, my family haven't been close, but I've been fortunate enough to lean into friends, find other mums.
Yeah, it's a community,
build a great network and have a brilliant employer.
Yeah.
That gives me the flexible working that I need.
Yeah.
I can drop off and pick up my kids and work my diary around it, know, and now I work full time. I feel really fulfilled at work and as a mum. As the kids got a bit older, it meant I felt like I could definitely work full time. But back to these women then that you were talking about, they're quite often in the senior leadership space.
Yeah.
They've worked really hard to get themselves there, throughout their throughout their career. They're desperate to, they want to have a baby. They have a baby. That's great. But then that job and having this baby, it's so difficult for them to be able to continue to work at that pace. And this is the snapshot of women that are then, like you say, perhaps going, oh, I can't stay in this role.
Well, then you're just losing the top and you're so bottom heavy. And that in itself is a huge challenge for businesses. You've got to keep, it's expensive. You've got to keep them. You've got to retain that talent.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of them do end up, you're going part-time or, even having a career change.
Yeah. And this is why we see in so many businesses, so many men at the top.
Yeah.
And then they're not, and lots of businesses say it's not what we want. We want the diversity, of course.
Yeah.
We want every voice, to sit up here. But so again, there's got to be more support, hasn't there, for these mums?
Yeah,
to
more
stay
support.
In those roles.
But I think, like you say, it's because we have to remember as well. The company obviously they need to make money as well, and I think it's giving them the support. But I think a lot of it is. For the mother, there's so much judgment, on, like some of my working full time when you've got small children. Unfortunately, there still is a lot of judgment, she's working full time and she's got small children, I think there's that narrative playing out as well, which doesn't add to that pressure of the mother. But I think it's the biggest thing that I've done for myself is really working on myself, like personal development and setting boundaries. And I think that is the foundation for all of it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we really want to support the mother with. You know, it's okay. You do you. Yeah. Set the boundaries. Unfortunately, I think something does have to give if you do want that high-flying career and you've got small children. I think this. I think something has to give.
Going out on a Friday night isn't
an
option anymore.
I've got a really small circle of friends, and I don't. Whilst I've been building Matressa and the 3 children, I have had to. Some might describe me as a bit of a hermit, but it's just that cycle of life.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about mums. We just touched on this. This is just why you've prompted me. So some key takeaways for mums in order to, I guess, just navigate either their pregnancy, early motherhood, and boundaries is the word that you use, and I concur. Being a mum and that, once you put them in place, oh God, you feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, it feels so good.
Yeah.
Because it's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you need to get to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's having the confidence and not feeling bad for saying no.
Yeah.
Because there is that, it's people pleasing, you're nervous of saying no. But setting boundaries, I think, is really important. And just being careful as well with how much time you're spending on your phone. I think social media plays a huge part in this, especially Instagram. It's very perfectly polished.
Content.
Everybody. I read something the other day about, I think Jay Shetty actually was talking about it and how you don't have to share everything. Whereas now it's like, well, if you didn't share it on Instagram, it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
But it happened in here.
Yeah. So I think it's especially like when you're early postpartum, you know, you're changing. I mean, matrescence is from the word matrescence, which you might be familiar with, but it's actually a scientific word.
Right.
And it's all around physiological, psychological, emotional changes a mother goes through, and it's evolving.
Okay.
So, you know, you're going through a change.
Yeah.
Don't add more to it, you know. So I think it's about releasing that pressure, just focusing on 3 things each day that you can do. And if that's in the early days, just surviving, then that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. And I think, like you say as well, you've touched on it a couple of times, you can't have it all.
No.
It's not, you know, and that doesn't mean life isn't full and perfect.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have to, like you say, you have to decide what you're going to let go of.
Yeah, otherwise you'll kill yourself
while you go through
all.
this new wonderful experience of being a mum, etc. Great. Okay. Then for leaders and employers, something to take away. What would you say?
I think they should take a really good look at what provisions they have in place to support their mothers, and I think these benefits should be continuously analysed. You know, is actually what they're giving the mother beneficial?
Okay.
You know, are they actually marking it against certain metrics? But also making sure that they're supporting them right before they come back to work, not just in 7 kit days.
No.
You know,
okay.
it's, as soon as they become pregnant, what systems have you got in place? And it's not just making sure that their desk is suitable, you know, and they've been to see occupational therapy or whatever. You know, what are the systems they've got in place to make sure that they have got the support, and also certainly when they come back to work, and looking at their leadership team, you know, making sure that those leaders are well equipped as well, that they've got necessary skills to be able to support, you know, parents and mothers at work.
Yeah, fantastic. And then actually, I have got a final sort of takeaway that I'd like to ask you, which is around, it's for everybody. So whether mothers, fathers, colleagues, you know, everybody around, you know, do you see, and I guess I see so many different things, and actually again I've learnt to discard opinions that don't suit me and so on and so forth. But with you doing the pilot and doing all this great work that you do you feel a lot of mothers feel limited by motherhood?
In what sense? That they can't do all the things that they previously could do? Yeah,
or do you think they, again, you know, we talked about as soon as they're pregnant, sometimes, and you know, I can empathise with this, that you're perhaps scared to tell your employer because are people going to see me differently? And actually, I think I remember it with friends as well, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago now, but actually I do think there was a moment where I was like, oh, well, again, I won't be able to drink next Friday because I'm pregnant now. Will that friend be okay with that?
Yeah.
You know, those...
Well, it's comparison. And actually, one of the ladies in the pilot was saying, one of the leadership team that I fed back to, we said about we're building communities into the platform. And she said, I wish I had that when I was. Yeah. Because she was a senior partner going back to work full time. Yeah. And none of her NCT group... Yeah. They weren't that. They were going back part time, and then that's totally fine too. But she said she didn't have that you know, that somebody that was in the similar situation, that community.
Yeah, of somebody going back to it full time.
Yeah.
So she felt lost and on her own. Yeah.
But it's that culture. I think it's creating that culture that actually you can say that you're, you know, if you don't know something, nothing's a silly question, you know, sharing, open. I think that is, again, it's that culture from the top that then, you know, trickles down. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm really excited for you. So the pilot, you've done it with one of the top 4. Yeah. The feedback was good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we're hopefully moving on to the next stage of moving it forward. Yeah, which is super exciting. That is very exciting indeed. And any final words you want to say before we... No, I think, you know, if you want to, we've got our website that's live now. Great. So if you want to join the waiting list for the next release of the platform, the website is matressa-app.co.uk. Okay. You can join our waiting list on our newsletter to hear more about that. That's great. We are currently raising investment, and we are... got a lead investor, which is super exciting. Looking to close that very soon. So if you also want to get involved, okay, great. You know, I'm open to conversations. All right. Yeah. And what we can do is we'll do
we'll put this on demand, and then we can pop your email and all your contact details on there as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye-bye. See you next time.